Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Adnastana. Pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio. I'm just enjoying this delicious Axum cigar in my backyard, enjoying some of the good weather we're having. In today's segment of Points of Light Radio, we will be focusing in on what drew people, what draws people, shall we say, to fraternalism. You've heard me ask this question before. Almost every single segment you see where I do an interview, you see me ask people what drew you to your particular organization. And today we're just going to focus on that. It's part of our growth series in Points of Light Radio. We really need to know how to, as far as I'm concerned, how to market our lodges and clubs and so on to potential candidates. Everybody joined for a reason. Let's be honest. Everybody joins for some reason. There's something that draws them in to these fraternal organizations. We want to figure out what it is so we can possibly market our organizations to potential candidates better. So let's move forward and let's see what draws people in to fraternalism.
Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Let's start by talking to Jay Michael. He is the founding member of the Free Gardeners Desert Rose Lodge number 11 in Arizona. Let's see what drew him to the Free Gardeners. Okay. Now, what drew you to the Free Gardeners?
The idea that you could have a mostly Christian-based fraternity. You know, everybody's welcome, but the like in some of these different orders, they're based on other religions, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with those. Yeah. But with the Free Gardeners, it just seemed very both Jewish and Christian, and both of those religions really interest me. So the idea that I could get initiated through, the four, Adam, Noah, Solomon, that really interested me.
So before we go any further, I thought it'd be interesting to revisit a conversation I had with Brother Owen Snowden earlier this year. He's the Worshipful Master of Loyal Orange Lodge 264 in the United Kingdom. Do you hear that? But it was quite interesting to hear what drew him to the Loyal Orange Lodge. So let's just revisit that quickly, shall we?
Well, to start it off, I joined the REOB when I was about nearly 10 years ago. It's not been 10 years, it's nearly been. And then from there, I met a good brother who sadly passed away, a brother Mitch, or Michael, and I knew his son, and his son, I remember walking by his house and noticing the red hand of Ulster flying proudly from his house. And I says, "Oh, is your, out of curiosity, is your dad in the Orange Order?" And he went, "Yeah, he is. Do you want to join?" And I says, "Totally. I've always wanted to join. I tried messaging you, but you didn't get back to us." And he went, "Oh, just ignore that. It'll just be, we've had problems with like emails or something." And I says, "All right." So I remember going upstairs and meeting this lovely old man sitting there on his chair, and he just says, "So I hear you're a buff as well." I says, "Oh, yeah, I'm a member of the REOB. I'm a true loyal supporter." He says, "Are you a Protestant?" I says, "Oh, aye. Proud Protestant as well." He says, "Brilliant." He says, so then he asked his son to step out the room. His son was very reluctant, but he says, "All right, Dad." He tagged off. and he put his hand out and he says the handshake sign of the REOB first degree, which I did give, and we then recognised each other, which is a beautiful thing in these organisations. You could be anywhere in the world, and when someone puts that hand of friendship out or sees a certain sign or password, you know instantly they are your brother, they're your family, and that you have that camaraderie straight away, which I did, and I built up. And after that, I signed my application. I then went to my interview, and then I was eventually initiated into Johnson Heroes 264.
Now let's go talk to Wilbur Lemuel. Now, you've seen him featured here numerous times on Points of Light Radio, talking about Odd Fellowship, but he recently joined the Mount of Olives 33-3 Free Gardeners Lodge, and he has plans, in fact, to bring it to his city in New Jersey, right? I was there, in fact, when he joined the Mount of Olives Free Gardeners Lodge. I didn't get a chance to sit down and talk to him at the time, but let's see what drew him to the Free Gardeners after spending time in numerous other fraternal orders. So back to the Free Gardeners, what drew you to free gardening?
What drew me to free gardening, I really was just intrigued by a post made by brother Jallo out of Oklahoma. He had joined before me. He
Yeah, I
in
forgot
Canada
about that.
took his degrees. Yeah, he came back. He posted it, and I'm familiar with him from another fraternal organization. We had both joined the Grey Knight Order of Odd Fellows, and we're both Masons and Elks as well in different states. But he posted the regalia, and I'm like, wow, the regalia looks amazing. Like it's beautiful regalia. I mean,
It is.
superficial, but it's hard to beat free gardening regalia. It's beautiful. So, I mean, that kind of caught my attention, but seeing the square compass and this knife in the middle, I'm like, what is this? Like, free gardeners, I've never heard of this. So it just sparked my curiosity. But seeing the things he posted, it wasn't, it seemed something stood out about it that was just so different about life and the metaphor of gardening. Like, it's just one I hadn't thought about applying that to life, and no other fraternal organization had presented it in that way. And so I was just curious because it seemed like something new and fresh, even though it's an old organization. So that attracted me to it, and talking to him about the order and what he got from it, it just I was hooked, and I'd already made myself a promise that I'd join no more fraternal organizations. But I would actually cut back. But then free gardening came, and I'm like, okay, one more, and this is it. But yeah, that's what drew me to it. Just actually knowing a member and talking to him about his experience, it became hard not to want to join.
This next guest is Darren Rose. Now, he is the Grand Master General of the Egyptian Masonic Order in the United Kingdom. A very, very esoteric organization, very deep organization. You've seen him featured here before on Points of Light Radio. And there's always a reason that someone might join some of these deeper organizations. So let's see what drew him to the Egyptian Masonic Order.
Well, I was drawn to the Egyptian Rite because of its mystery school element, because of its connection to esotericism and occultism and its involvement with the development of that at the beginning of the 20th century. I was already a Mason in the more classical UJLE form, and I had begun investigating other forms of mystery tradition. And when I discovered the Egyptian Rite, I was instantly attracted to it, and I felt like it combined masonry and occultism in a wonderful synthesis. And I was hooked ever since. And I find that the practice of the Egyptian Rite is very fulfilling to all those various parts of me that require that spiritual nourishment.
Lastly, let's talk to Casey Pemberton. He's the Grand Chancellor of the Knights of Pythias domain of Missouri and Kansas. He's also the Chancellor Commander of the Manitou Lodge, number 446, and the Vice President of the KOP 4th District. So let's see what drew him to the Knights of Pythias. Okay, so first, what drew you to the Knights of Pythias, first of all?
So I think a big chunk of it for me was that family connection I mentioned before. My great-grandfather was a Pythian. And I actually learned that in a History of Kansas City book. And just knowing that, here's a guy who seemed to have something figured out. Looking back, he's mentioned in the History of Kansas City.
Wow.
So somebody cared about him. And so he had to figure out something. And so I kind of wanted to learn that. This is a thing I can do that he did. And I think that's important. And that is one reason I do think all of these fraternal groups is important. Because I think it's a huge testament, Pythians, Masons, both of them, to be able to say that just like anyone who Justice Rathbone put through the rank work, we all knelt at an altar just alike, took those same obligations, did that same rank work, and it's been a consistent stream for over 100 years.
So, let's investigate a little further. Let's go a little further with our findings here, brothers and sisters. You've seen 4 different guests here, right? So, start with Worshipful Brother J. Michael from the Desert Rose number 11 Free Gardeners. He said he liked the Christian aspect of the Free Gardeners. And you've heard me, when I covered the Free Gardeners here on Points of Light Radio, you saw me, you heard me say, as well as some of my guests, that the Free Gardeners do follow a very biblical narrative, not especially in their ritual work. There is a very biblical and Christian aspect to the Free Gardeners, right? And some people, not just with the Free Gardeners, as well as other organizations, right? Brother Snowden from the Loyal Orange Lodge 264 in the United Kingdom. And I could not help but include this in this particular segment. I love his story of how he saw the Red Hand of Ulster flag at his friend's house, got talking to his father, I believe it was, and he said that he was already curious about the Loyal Orange Lodge and wanted to join. And of course, it sounds like those who interviewed him about it, I mean, really, shall we say, they capitalized and met him at that point of interest. I like that. Darren Rose, the Grand Master of the General of the Egyptian Masonic Order in the United Kingdom, said he was drawn to the mystery school element of the Egyptian Masonic Order. Now, we've covered the mystery school, the historic aspect of the mystery schools with the Catholic Perennialist, if you recall, in previous segments of Points of Light Radio. And the history of it was quite interesting on its own, so I can understand why Mr. Rose would feel drawn to that. He was also looking for what he called spiritual nourishment. And you can find that within fraternalism, right? And it's actually, there are people of like minds you will often find within fraternalism. And it sounds as though he's found that there. I'm really happy to hear that, right? I love having him on here too. Worshipful Brother Wilbert Lemuel of the Mount of Olives 33.3 said his friend, Worshipful Brother Jallo, had joined before he did. I was there when Worshipful Brother Lemuel, it's worth saying this, I was there when Worshipful Brother Lemuel joined, and I was there when his friend, Worshipful Brother Jallo, joined. He said his Brother Jallo had posted very positively about the Free Gardeners, and It is true. I mean, he does represent the order very well, that worshipful brother Jallo. And Mr. Lemieux said he loved the regalia, and it is impressive regalia that the Free Gardeners wear. So he said he loved the regalia from the Free Gardeners, and it, like I said, it is impressive regalia. They do. I was. It's funny because I was actually rather captivated by that as well when I first started investigating them. Right, Brother Casey Pemberton, Grand Chancellor of the Knights of Pythias Domain in Missouri and Kansas, said that he had a familial connection to the Knights of Pythias. His grandfather was in it. From everything he said, his grandfather represented the Knights of Pythias quite well. And it is important, I will say that, brothers and sisters, that we represent our orders properly. Right? And from what you're seeing here, you saw a lot of that, where people represented the order very well to those who were looking to join. Now, we all join for these orders for a reason. You've heard me say that here before on Points of Light Radio. We all join for a reason. And it is very important. As I said, I've made this part of our growth series here on Points of Light Radio for 2025. This is, like I said, this is part of the growth series that I've brought you today. We need to understand what's drawing people into our orders so that we can facilitate their entrance into what we're doing, right? Never forget that. You've seen great examples here today on this particular segment of representing the order well, answering the questions that our adherents might be asking. And it's very important, as you heard me say in a previous segment, that we ask people, what's drawing you to this today? When we're doing our interviews for those who are looking to join, what's drawing you into this? What is it that this order can do for you to kind of meet whatever it is, that need or that interest, right? And it's important that when people do join, we try to meet those interests and needs when they join, right? To really, feed that desire, whatever it is that's brought them in. And I'll close with that. Before I go, I want to draw your attention to the PayPal link, as always, that you'll see in the details section of this segment. You can hit on that link, make a voluntary donation to Points of Light Radio. We will use that to move the podcast forward. You can also see that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. And today, brothers and sisters, I want you in the comments section down below here to try to tell me what it is that drew you to the order that you joined, or what it is, if you're not involved in fraternalism, that you might be looking for when you join, or a fraternal order, right? You can see the link to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. My Blue Sky handle is at polightradio.bsky.social. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, this has been a pleasure fellowshipping with you and our guests today. And until we meet again, just step into the light.